Hey, Logan, thanks for joining me.
Great to be back with you, Miriam.
Awesome. This is our third video in our Harvest at Home cooking series where we are making the entire Harvest at Home meal. It's a little bit different this year. We can't do Harvest at the Commons. We're not able to gather all 650 of us underneath the tent. So we're doing a little bit of a pivot and we're all making the Harvest meal from home. Okay. Logan is guiding us through all of the recipes. So if you haven't watched the video with the salad, the elevated bread course, and the sides, go back to the previous videos and give those a watch. Otherwise, Logan, what are we making today?
We're going to dive right into the Mitten Bowl. So this is a classic one bowl kind of entree meal. And so we do have three distinct different components. And once again, we're just going to be mindful of our time and what we want to get going first. And I think it's best to start with our roasted veggies and chickpeas. So chickpeas are definitely, and the roasted veggies are really going to be the hearty part of this dish. And good to get those in the oven so they can just be going while we do the rest of the Mitten Bowl.
Right. So a lot of when you're cooking a full meal with a couple different courses, a lot of the skill is in your time management, right? So making sure that you're putting the things in the oven so that they're coming out hot and you're not serving cold food to your guests or things aren't coming out too early or too late. So we are providing a step-by-step kitchen run of show for folks so that they know exactly what to do at what point in time in the evening so that the whole meal is ready to put on the table when your guests are ready to eat.
So for the roasted veggies, which I think we'll start there, we have sweet potatoes, beets, and purple daikon radish and cabbage. And just as a heads up for this video, purple daikon radishes are not in season just yet. So we'll be using just daikon. If you're wondering, this is just regular daikon. Everybody will be receiving some gorgeous purple daikon radish. And it's just one of those things, again, if you don't have purple daikon radish, you don't even have daikon radish, you can sub out with a different type of radish. You could do parsnips, you could do carrots. Remember, things can interchange. And if you have any of those questions, as my cat makes an appearance. If you have any of those questions, just let us know because it's easier to replace most of the things that we have going on in this meal. So let's go ahead and get out the cabbage, the daikon, radish, the sweet potatoes, and the beets from the box.
All right, so all of those ingredients are in the Harvest at Home farm box that is available for pre-order now on Groundwork's website, groundworkcenter.org/harvest. And you can pre-order your farm box there, and it has all the ingredients that you're going to need to make the harvest meal at home. So I'm pulling out my sweet potatoes and the radishes. And what else, Logan, do I need?
We're looking for beets and cabbage.
Beets and cabbage. All right.
And it's one of those things, give them a quick rinse off if they need. We are going to be keeping the skins on everything, including the beets. Unless you see a really big blemish, you can just cut that part out. But otherwise, love keeping the skins on root vegetables. It's actually the healthiest part of the vegetable. So has the most amount of nutrients in it. So it doesn't really matter where you start cutting. We're looking for bite-sized pieces. So however you get there with knife work that is most comfortable for you. One thing to be aware of is that the beets are going to stain everything they come in contact with. So if you're working with a wooden cutting board, if you can pivot to a plastic one, something that can be easily wiped off. And if you're worried about your hands being stained, we're all at home, so it's not like you're trying to impress anybody probably, but you could wear a glove of some sort, a plastic glove if you got one. Just be mindful because beet juice gets everywhere. So,
all right, that's great advice. I think I might do my beets last then in that case.
Yeah, so, and again, so we have chickpeas and our root veg. All the root veg is going to go on one tray and the chickpeas on the other if you have two different baking vessels. So just keep that in mind. I have my baking trays right next to me so I can just kind of slide the produce straight off the cutting board into the baking trays. And it's super simple. You don't have to put them into a bowl you can put them into a bowl, but when it comes to seasoning and mixing these things up, the baking tray, as long as it's big enough that you can kind of get in there and mix it, works just fine. If you want to throw them in a bowl to toss and get the seasonings going, that works as well. So personal preference there.
We're looking for bite-sized pieces of all these vegetables.
And again, it's one of those things, we've talked about this before with some of the other videos we've done, but the sizing doesn't have to be perfect. It just means that, you know, a couple pieces might get a little crispier or more done than others, and that's okay.
And so when we're working with this veg that is pretty round, like the sweet potatoes and the beets, you've said it's pretty helpful to cut a flat surface in the veg first and lay that down on your cutting board and then do the rest of your work from there.
Yep, that's right. So if you have a nice flat surface that you can place right down on the cutting board, it's not going to rock or anything, and you can have a lot more confidence with your knife cutting abilities, knowing that it's not going to slip. And as usual, a sharp knife is the safest knife. So always a good reminder to keep your knives sharp. The worst accidents happen with dull knives, and the cuts are always worse too because they're not clean.
Ooh, yikes.
Now that I've planted that visual in your head.
Mind. Yeah, I'll be very careful making clean cuts here.
And I have a plastic cutting board here for beets. And that's just a great thing to have in the kitchen in general if you don't already. I prefer wood for chopping, but when you're dealing with things that stain like beets or turmeric or things that are really smelly like garlic and onions, it's nice to have another cutting board that you can wash either the stains or the aromas off, because wood will absorb all of that. And so it's just something to keep in mind if you have the ability to have two cutting boards on hand.
I think cutting boards might be the kitchen item that I have the most variety of. All right, well, I just finished cutting up my sweet potatoes. I put them on the baking sheet, which I set behind me just to keep my workspace clear. Have you finished chopping all your vegetables?
So I have the beets and the daikon and the sweet potatoes cut up. I'm also just trying to do a single serving because it's just me over here tonight. So
okay.
I got a little advantage there. I did want to mention too with the cabbage. Mainly with the cabbage, what you want to do is you want to get the core out of it. So you cut it in half, and then basically what you want to do is kind of wedge out the core of the cabbage. So you take a knife stroke one way and then the other. You pop out the core, the heart basically of the cabbage, and then you can set about cutting it however you want. Just that little core of the cabbage can be a little tough, so it's good to just remove that part.
That's really great advice.
And I would wager to say that you can make the cabbage slices just a little bit bigger because they'll be all different various pieces. And one of the things I like about roasted cabbage is the leaves are obviously pretty thin. So as it happens to be, they end up getting nice and crispy in the baking process. So.
Okay, so you're suggesting that because we've got these big, thick root vegetables here, maybe we want to cut the cabbage a little thicker too so it doesn't get more done or overdone while the rest of the veg is cooked.
Yeah, you can do it a little thick or a little thicker, a little bit bigger, but it's one of those things that will just inevitably happen when you're cooking all of them together, that the cabbage will get more cooked, but a nice crispy piece of cabbage is a really delicious, wonderful treat. So
right, yeah, I'm a big fan of crispy, salty cabbage.
All four can go onto the same baking tray. And if at the end of the day you need to use 2 trays for all your veg, that's totally fine. As we had mentioned with the potatoes, if you want to put parchment paper down onto the baking tray ahead of time, you can. Sometimes that can help depending on the type of tray that you have. Aluminum, for instance, tends to stick a lot easier than stainless steel or glass. So if you want to avoid the sticking, go ahead and throw a little parchment paper down before putting all the veg in there. Totally don't have to, but it can help starve off any sticking.
All right, I'm nearly finished cutting up my beets here. That was my, actually I have my beets and my cabbage left. So still working on that. Okay, I am nearly finished transferring my veggies. Still gotta do my cabbage. Logan, you were not kidding about the beets staining everything. Got purple hands.
Yep, I got red streaks on my hands as well. It's a sign that you're getting into your food.
This cabbage is gorgeous. It's beautifully curly and got a really nice, pretty green ombre to it. This local produce is nothing like what you could find at the supermarket. So.
Once again, we're going to be looking at most of the colors of the rainbow in this dish, which is always a great thing to shoot for. So once we have all of our veg cut and on the tray, the next thing to do is get out our little bundle of fresh herbs. We want to strip the oregano and thyme from the stem, and just go ahead and use your cutting board because we are going to chop this up a little bit as well. So the first step is just to get this off the stem. There is no denying that particularly the thyme takes time to strip. But honestly, I know we've talked about it a lot, but just the smell and the aroma that will waft up and for you to enjoy while you're working on this tells you all you need to know about the flavor that this fresh herb bundle is in impart on the roasted veggies and chickpeas.
Right. I mean, a lot of us are so used to cooking with dried herbs, which oftentimes are a little more subdued in their aroma and even in their flavor. They can taste kind of old, maybe not have as much of that fresh taste to them. So it really is a treat to be using these beautiful fresh herbs in these dishes. If folks are making the entire harvest meal, they should set aside a few sprigs of the oregano for the salad dressing, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're going to be giving everybody a little rundown in terms of how to do things, and the salad dressing is going to be one of the first. We'll make sure that nobody, forgets to set aside time. No pun intended.
Oregano. We're setting aside oregano, Logan.
Setting aside oregano. Oh, boy. Well, we're definitely not filming all these videos in one day, and I'm definitely not tired at this point. So glad you're catching my mistake. We will, and we're going to provide everybody with a decent amount of fresh herbs. You might not even end up using all of them, but obviously a great thing to have on hand post-harvest dinner. You can use them in a wide variety of ways, or even make tea out of a lot of these if you wanted to. Or
I love Thai tea. It's so lovely.
Put them in a cocktail as a garnish. There's a lot of different things you can do with them. So never a bad thing to have them on hand. So, you can also just grab this whole bundle and just kind of roll it in your hand. And this is also a good way to start getting leaves off. So you don't also have to individually strip the branches, especially if you're rushed for time. There are ways to expedite a pretty time-consuming project.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm really glad that you told me that trick right as I was finishing de-stemming all of my teeny tiny thyme leaves. So thanks.
Well, that's impressive. That's impressive. You already got it done, because I was like.
Well, I spent quite a few years as a chocolatier at Grocer's Daughter Chocolate, and we used a lot of fresh herbs in our truffles. So I'm no stranger to spending a lot of time with thyme. So
there you go.
Are we also using the sage that's in here, Logan?
Yes, we are. We are using the sage. And since we happen to have the rosemary, I'm just using a little bit of that. Again, since we happen to have it. And so we have our sage, oregano, and thyme down on the cutting board, and we just want to start to mince that with a knife. Get it nice and small, release the flavor and the aroma.
Okay, so to clarify, I'm taking the leaves off the sage as well and mincing that with the other herbs.
That's right. So we'll have 3 different herbs down, all of the leaves off of the stem, and we're just going to make sure we get nice little pieces. Don't need to spend a ton of time on it, but you don't want a huge piece of herb in your bite of roasted veg. So just make sure that you don't leave anything to be too undesirable in the final dish. Might start to smell like Thanksgiving once you're done with this process. This is some classic herb blends right here.
Smells lovely. I love the smell of the sage. It smells so very just soft smelling, you know?
Yes. We have our veg on a tray. We're finishing up our herbs. We got those on the cutting board. The next step will be to get our cans of chickpeas. Should have 2 of them. And, if you happen to not be getting the box and doing shopping on your own, and you picked up different sizes of chickpeas, or you just have 1 or whatever you got, it's going to work. Go ahead, open that can of chickpeas or multiple cans of chickpeas up and drain the liquid. And then the idea is we just want to pour the chickpeas right onto another baking tray. And it's nice to have both trays, both of the chickpeas and the veg, ready, because we're going to do the same kind of seasoning blend on both of them. And so that way we just knock both trays out at once, and we don't have to repeat the process. Save some time.
All right.
So making sure we have some clean hands. The first step you're going to want to do is take the fresh herbs and kind of evenly distribute them over however many trays you have. So I have 2 here, so just going to go ahead and sprinkle on top this nice fresh herb blend over the chickpeas and roasted veg. And then it's just a matter of doing some olive oil, salt, and black pepper, and very similar to the potatoes that we did in the side dish. We just want to make sure we have enough oil there that we can get a little coating of oil on all the veg and chickpeas we got going on. So it's an easy one to eyeball. You can always add a little more if you need to. And then a few pinches of salt over each tray, and just a couple of shakes for cracks of fresh black pepper. And then once all of your seasonings are in there, once again, if you have clean hands, go ahead and get in there and just kind of massage that in there. Toss it around, make sure everything's coated. You can use a spoon as well, but I really think a clean pair of hands is going to be most effective in terms of even distribution of your spice blend, the olive oil, the salt, and the pepper. And then once we have thoroughly mixed everything up, they can go straight into the oven. And it's one of those things where I'd say 20 minutes. And same with the potato wedges. It's 20 minutes. Take them out, stir them around a little bit, make sure things aren't thickened too much. And then the vegetables more than likely are going to be done before the chickpeas. So I'd say 20 minutes. Give them a stir, another 10, they'll probably be just about right. And then with the chickpeas, you can pull them out at the same time with the vegetables. There's no question that they'll be done cooking. I mean, they're already cooked coming from the can, but I really love a nice crispy chickpea. So if you're a fan of that, you can leave them in a little longer and get them a little bit crispier. So totally up to you and your preference in terms of how you like your chickpeas. But the longer you leave them in, the more crispy they get.
So we're throwing these into a 400-degree oven, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. Confidence.
Let's go ahead and get these in, and we'll get started on the rice.
All right.
All right. So moving right along, we want to get into the rice. So we have the roasted veg and the chickpeas going in the oven. The next step timing-wise is to get going with the rice mixture. So I think and hope you'll have a nice quart jar of rice in the box, and you'll also have a little bag that will probably be pretty orange. Yep, there we go, perfect. So the first step we want to do is to rinse the rice. So go ahead and, get the rice into any type of strainer, colander, something that's fine enough that obviously the rice won't escape. And then what we want to do is run it under cold water for about 15 to 20 seconds. And basically you're just rinsing off some of that starch. And then we want to just go ahead and dump it right into, I would say, a large pot. We want to have enough room. We are cooking a little over 3 cups of grain, so we need a decent amount of room. So getting that rice into a pot after it's been rinsed is where I'm at right now.
Okay, so I've got my big stock pot here, so I think that's what I'm going to be doing my rice in.
Perfect. Okay, so the beautiful thing is that in this little baggie, you have the blend of amaranth, turmeric, salt, and cracked black pepper. It's all ready to go. We can go ahead and dump this mixture right into our rice. Now, you might be wondering why we have this mixture to begin with. It's just an easy way of elevating your typical rice. So amaranth is actually a seed in the same family as quinoa. It happens to be a complete protein, all the essential amino acids that your body needs, which is really cool. Turmeric is really one of probably the healthiest herb out there for us. It's just fantastic in loads of ways. And the other cool thing is that it turns your rice this beautiful golden, like yellow gold shade, which is just really fun. And it adds a different element to your rice. So the key here, though, is to make sure we really integrate the amaranth and turmeric in with the rice. So the next step is once the turmeric and amaranth, salt, and black pepper is in there, we're going to go ahead and add, it depends. So if you're using a rice cooker, do 3 1/4 cups of water. If you're going on the stovetop, just go with 4. If you have a rice cooker or something like that, go with that because it's just perfect every time. And the water to grain ratio is just, it should be the exact same as for the rice cooker. On the stovetop, it is a little different. So I have 4 cups of water, which is exactly a quart in case you didn't know. So you could also just, fill up that quart jar.
I think that's what I'm going to do so that I don't have to go find my big measuring cups.
Yep, so fill that one all the way up and we'll get the water in there. And then again, so we just want to stir this and make sure it's kind of integrated in. The one thing about amaranth is as it cooks, it gets a little sticky. So we just want to make sure that the amaranth is evenly distributed. And one of the really cool things about amaranth, outside of the fact that it's giving you complete protein, has distinct health benefits, it actually adds a really beautiful texture to rice. The tiny little amaranth seed sticks to the rice itself, and you'll see it when it's finished cooking. It actually is a really cool looking and also a great texture. So if you're using a rice cooker, you just turn the thing on and you're set. That's all you have to do. It's kind of like your food processor. But if you're on the stovetop, you do have to watch it a little bit. So the idea is you want to bring it to a boil first. So medium-high heat to get it to that point. I'm just going to throw it on my induction burner that I have right here in this makeshift studio that I have going. But yeah, so we want to bring the rice up to a boil. And then as soon as it's boiling, we want to get in there and stir it around and just make sure that it wasn't too high of a heat. Sometimes you're liable to just get the flame or electric, whatever you got going, a little too high and it can stick. That's definitely something you want to avoid. So we have the rice on the stove. We just want to turn it up high to get it to that boiling point. Stir it around, make sure nothing's sticking, and then put it to a low heat and then cover it. And we're going to let it cook for about 20 minutes on the stovetop. And then we'll go ahead and check it and just make sure. We want our rice to be al dente. We don't want it to be too mushy or sticky. After 20 minutes, we'll give it a taste and just make sure. So long as it's al dente, it's basically done. We can turn the heat off and we'll fluff it and then cover it again for 10 minutes and just kind of let it sit. It actually cooks a little bit more in that final 10 minutes. The same thing with the rice cooker. As soon as your rice cooker clicks off, just get in there with a spoon, fluff it, and then cover it up for 10 minutes or so, and it should just be perfect. I think a lot of folks will use too much water and kind of have that mushy rice. I mean, if that's your thing, no judgment, but I like a really good, perfectly al dente rice. So we'll get that going, and then we'll come back and do the greens marinade, which is our final component for the dish.
Awesome. See you in a sec. Okay, Logan, so my root veg is in the oven, and my rice is cooking on the stove. So while that is working over there, we can get started on the green marinade.
This is the final component for our dish. It's going to be kept raw, so this is one of those things. Actually, you could do at any point because it's okay if it sits, but certainly one of the things you can do last as well. So for the greens marinade, we selected parsley, cilantro, and fennel. Now, this is, again, one of those areas in which you can be creative if you're not getting the farm box yourself and you are going out shopping. Green onion can work. Let's see, what else? I mean, even kale or things like that. Brussels sprouts, there's all different things. But the basic principle is some really nice greens that have a bunch of flavor that's going to add and uplift and bring some real freshness to this Mitten Bowl. So it doesn't necessarily matter where you start, but I'm going to go ahead and tackle the fennel first. It's going to probably be the most time consuming. Just going to knock off a couple of things here. We do want to get rid of the core. So this, again, just kind of like that cabbage, we want to kind of wedge that out just because that can be a little bit tough. So just getting that core out there. Fennel is liable to kind of fall apart on you as you mess with it, but that's okay. And the goal here with all of the greens here in front of us is just try to get it as thin as possible, as you are comfortable with a knife. And if you're going along and you're cutting and things are getting a little bit big, just like with our herb bundle, just go back over it, put it on the cutting board and go back over it. But we're trying to get as thin as possible because we're going to keep this raw. So just know that. Just know that you'll be eating this raw. We're going to add some salt and break it down like we did with the kale in the salad. But yeah, just as thin as possible as you're comfortable with a knife. This is one of those things that if you have a food processor, you could certainly kind of get this into some medium-sized pieces and run it through the food processor if that's preferable and you don't want to use your knife in that way.
Okay, that's good advice. So for someone who's not as comfortable using a knife, the fennel is pretty wily here. It's tough to keep together. It likes to fall apart. So someone could use their food processor. I have already rinsed mine out and it is completely clean, so I'm not really trying to do any more dishes. So I think I'm going to go OG and give it a nice good chop.
Just have a little mixing bowl next to you to put the greens as it's chopped and the fennel as it's chopped into a bowl. And if you are going to use a food processor, just be mindful and make sure you do chop it up a little bit. You don't want to try and throw a big old thing of fennel in there. So give the food processor a little head start before you throw things in there. And with the cilantro and parsley, please make sure to use the stem as well. The stem has a ton of flavor. Some might say it has more flavor than the leaves. So not only does it have a ton of flavor, but it also adds a really nice texture and crunch as well that the leaves don't have.
I know that you're a big fan of using the whole plant, Logan. I've had dishes made by you with pickled watermelon rind and pickled herb stems. And it was surprising how lovely and flavorful and crunchy, and it was just very interesting and very, it was a really delicious dish. So folks, trust Logan when he says use the stems.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're creating a marinade. So we're going to add olive oil and salt and lemon. Obviously a common theme here, but that's for a reason. Acidity and salt help break things down, and they help add a ton of great flavors to whatever you're working with. So once we're done with the chopping, and this might be the most laborious part of the entire meal right here, but once we're done with that, we're just going to mix this up with some great, very simple seasonings. And this is one of those things that a greens marinade is a lovely addition to so many different things. You can use it for soups, you can use it for grains, one bowl meals, you can use it as a marinade, like if you eat meat. So there's a lot of different uses for it. So it's a great simple recipe to know, and it adds the health benefits of having raw, fresh greens, texture, and flavor to so many things. So this is something you'll probably have a little extra of after we're done and after you're done eating. So just know that once it's in your fridge, pull it out for all manner of things moving forward, and a great recipe to know for sure.
So how long do you think this will last in the fridge, Loghan, if folks have some leftover?
Easily 5 days and probably beyond. We're going to be putting in lemon juice, which really helps to preserve whatever you got going on. It's not like some cooked thing where it's been exposed to heat either. So it's raw, and it's got the lemon juice in there to really help extend the shelf life, as well as salt. So lemon and salt are both pretty good at preserving vegetables. And this is one of those things too, where we're gonna recommend the juice of one lemon, but you can always add more after you taste it if you'd like a little bit more acidity. We have our greens in the bowl, the fennel, parsley, cilantro mix. We're just going to go ahead and squeeze the lemon juice directly in. And again, once this is all mixed up and you try it, if you want some more, just go ahead and add some more lemon to your preference. But let's start with one.
Oh yeah. All right, so I am just going to give all my veggies a little push around, make sure that everybody is getting cooked evenly. I'm going to spread it out on the tray a little bit. That's looking really good. I'm going to fork test it. Looks like sweet potatoes tender, the beets are tender, and the daikon radish looks good. So I'm just going to give this maybe 2 or 3 more minutes in the oven, and then probably pull it out at that point.
Sounds great. Yeah, and that, again, one of those preferences, right? If you like your veg a little bit more done, you can keep them in there. If you like them al dente, just pull them out when that fork test hits the mark. That's certainly what I did with my veg, and that's the nice thing about the cabbage being in there, is that it will naturally be a little crispier than the sweet potatoes, beets, and daikon radish.
In my chickpeas, I pulled out of the oven a couple minutes ago. They look really nice, golden browns. Got all those nice herbs on them, so that's going great as well. All right, so I'm back over here at my cutting board, finishing up my mincing of the parsley, which smells amazing, by the way. I know I've kind of gushed over how beautiful all these fresh herbs are, but really it's just an amazing fresh smell, which is such a relief right now as the weather is obviously starting to turn from summer to fall. So to be able to use these fresh veggies and kind of get the last of summer is really definitely something to be cherished.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Absolutely.
All right, Loghan, I think that I'm going to do one more pass over this parsley. Sorry.
With this fennel, parsley, and cilantro, take your time. I think it is one of those things that you don't want a really big old piece of fennel, or even parsley for that matter. So take your time, give it an extra couple minutes to run through, and just make sure they're all in nice small pieces. Really mince up these greens because, again, we're keeping them raw. So you don't want any unruly pieces in there.
Okay, and then I'm following all of this up with the juice of 1 lemon, and then advise me on the rest.
Yeah, so we're going to do some lemon, and just like we've done before, we're going to do some salt. I would say a couple teaspoons to start, just a few pinches in there. the exact recipe that we have is on those cards. But yeah, so we want a little bit of salt, just a few pinches of salt, and a little sprinkle of olive oil. I would say a tablespoon of olive oil would be a good call. You don't need that much. It's just nice to have a little bit of that fattiness in there. And then we just want to really mix it in there, whether you massage it down with your hands, which if you're using your hands, it is a little messier because of the small nature of the greens, or a spoon, either way, but you really do want to integrate and kind of mash things in there and really get the flavors singing together, and the lemon juice and salt working their magic with the greens.
Yeah, I'm seeing the greens start to kind of reduce down and release some of their juices after we've introduced that lemon juice and the salt, and starting to massage those, let the flavors get to know each other there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the greens, as soon as salt's introduced, is always going to reduce down in size. So if you're like putting this together, you're like, wow, that's a lot of greens. You know, just wait. Also, nothing wrong with a lot of greens. And again, something that keeps really, really well and can be used in a wide variety of ways. Like if, for instance, like think about like a cream of butternut soup. You know, it's really rich and sweet, etc. You throw a little bit of this on, it adds a whole different dimension to a soup, something you've never had before. So always think about that in terms of, you know, when you have leftovers, and or maybe like, you know, you have that turnip aioli sauce that you might have a little extra of after tonight. You know, think about ways in which you can maybe creatively use it. So kind of giving you a lot of different fun components to work with both tonight for this dinner and beyond. Awesome.
So could you give me a peek at your marinade there, so I know I'm on the right track? Okay, good.
Trying to find the right lighting, but yeah, so, you know, we're looking for, you know, well integrated in, so the fennel and the cilantro parsley are all dancing well together, and all, like, if you grab a bite, you're going to get all three. In this, you know, I would let this sit for 5-10 minutes. In the ideal world, we're expediting, of course. Give it a taste if it needs a little salt, a little acidity. The thing is kind of think about this as a concentrate, right? So we have our rice mixture, we have our roasted vegetables and chickpeas. These are both very comforting, very savory components, right? So this is the only thing that's more uplifting and acidic and salty. So it's okay if it's more acidic and salty. Like if you try it and you think it's too acidic and salty, it's probably going to be right in the context of the entire dish that we're creating.
Cool. So Logan, I think we've got all of our components finished here, right? We've got our turmeric rice, we've got our roasted chickpeas, our roasted root veg, and this beautiful green marinade. So tell us how to plate it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just go from the bottom up. So, you know, just think about kind of a grain bowl. I'm sure most of us have had them. So we have our rice amaranth mix. We're going to start with that at the bottom. I got a little bowl here. Use a plate, a bowl, whatever you're thinking. Take a nice hefty scoop or two. I'm going to go 2. And put this at the bottom.
That is a gorgeous color.
Yeah, really, it's stunning. It's such a representation of fall, I think. It's a really great fall color. And then if you have the vegetables and chickpeas separate, go with the vegetables first and then the chickpeas. You could also just toss both into a bowl and then spoonful it out. That's what I did. So I'm going to take that mixture now that I've created and put the roasted veg and roasted chickpeas right on top of the rice. Just kind of start building up this beautiful mitten bowl. All of these things outside of the rice coming from Michigan, which is really great. And then the final component here is going to be the fennel parsley marinade, which should have a lot of acidity, a lot of salt in there. It's going to really make things sing here with the rest of the components. And I do want to mention, you know, we wanted to try to keep these recipes as simple as possible. You know, one of the cool things, if you have turnip aioli left over, you could drizzle a little bit of that on here too. It'll go really great. Also too, you could add a drizzle of some Cuisine olive oil on top too, just in case you're feeling like, you know, you want something else as another additional component. But this is one of those things, we've plated things up from the ground up. But when you go to eat it, you're wanting to make sure that you mix everything up and get all three together. So we have our, there we go.
There we go. All right. That is gorgeous, Logan. Love all those beautiful fall colors. And like you said, most of this is local to Northern Michigan. So we're super excited about our farm boxes. So if folks want to follow along and make this meal with us, they can find the pre-order for the farm box on our website, groundworkcenter.org/harvest. That's where you can get your farm box, as well as the shopping list and the recipe cards and the step-by-step instructions to make everything that we've made so far. Logan, thank you so much for guiding us through the recipes this year. We're really excited about it. Hope that folks join us from home and make the meal with their friends and family as well. So I just want to give a shout out to Harvest Solar, our providing sponsor this year, as well as our certified local food sponsors. Taste the local difference. We've got Planted Cuisine, our friends at Oriana, DoThe22.com, and MI Farm Co-op. Also a big shout out to Fustini's Oils and Vinegars and Grocery Starter Chocolate. And all of our other sponsors and partners who are making Harvest at Home possible. We really could not make such a major pivot without the help from our community. So thank you to everybody who's making the meal at home. Hope you have a lot of fun.
Yes.
All right. Thanks,
Yes.
Logan. I'll see you
Absolutely.
on October 10th when we do the live stream of Harvest at Home. Logan is going to be making dinner. Hans and I are going to be hosting the live stream show. And Joshua Davis is going to be playing some amazing live music for us. We've got a silent auction. We've got a 50-50 raffle. We've got all sorts of fun stuff planned for October 10th. So make sure to sign in at groundworkcenter.org/harvest.